Okay, so the question is, I am worried my business partner may try to stall mediation. What legal strategies can I use to ensure compliance? Would I be able to force him into mediation? Interesting question, and that's so. Let me kind of start with mediation. Mediation, as a concept, is a voluntary arrangement, and it can come up in two different ways. It can come up in if, for example, there's an underlying agreement between the partners. In your case, if you have a dispute before any one of you refers the case to the court or arbitration, you agree to mediate. So it's a contractual agreement between the two of you to mediate. So that it can come up in that context. And the other one is, okay, so you can, even if you do go, or the parties do end up going into mediation, there's no requirement to actually mediate. So there's no requirement for your partner, for example, to come forward and to be reasonable, so to speak, or to even engage in conversation with you. So they can show up to so-called mediation, but not really offer anything, put anything on the table. So that's kind of the nuance of mediation, because it's not a formal judicial forum. It's not like the court. So whatever happens in the court, there's a requirement to respond, and if you don't respond, there are repercussions. In mediation, there's no such thing. So with regards to the first aspect, and that is a contractual agreement to mediate prior to final moving formally through whatever judicial forum you ultimately decide, either court or arbitration, and historically, these kinds of provisions were not really sort of enforceable. And this is in what sense? Because if you have that provision to mediate in the agreement, I mean, the agreement is only as good as the party's intention to comply with the agreement. In other words, to agree to mediation and proceed with mediation. If your partner refuses to do it, there's nothing you can do about it. So you cannot really force them to go to mediation. That's been historically the case. That's why most parties would go and go to court right away. And you could not really use that provision against them in the court, preventing them, for example, from filing a court case. So this, however, may change soon, and that's because in the UAE there's a kind of a newer mediation law, and in specific Emirates like Dubai, further bolstering the concept of mediation, and the intention is to make mediation have more of a bite. So be a little more enforceable. So that means that in the future, I would expect that these kinds of mediation agreements will become enforceable in the courts. In other words, if you take that scenario and you go to the court, or your partner tries to go to the court without mediating first, you might be able to raise an objection on jurisdictional basis on the basis of that mediation clause. So that's in the future, not today. Now, but that's one. Two is that even if you do have this mediation, and now there's an amicable dispute center as part of the Dubai course, as part of the sort of mediation initiative that the UAE government is continuing to develop, and Dubai government in particular. Then, as part of this, there is a way for you to file a claim for mediation for like amicable dispute, but. So you could do that, but your partner may or may not come. And if they do come, they don't necessarily have to engage in mediation. And at that point, there is not much you can do to force them to mediate. So that's basically the mediation as it exists today. And certainly, I guess one way to work to sort of work around it in the future is that next time when you have an agreement like that, just include a clause, a penalty, a financial penalty. If a party refuses to mediate, there'll be some sort of financial penalty that you may be able to enforce and at least get some sort of compensation. But at present, mediation is there, and it's now evolving, and we expect to see it kind of take more of a shape and be more of a tool of choice, but not today. By the way, I did a podcast on mediation not long ago, so and covered the newer mediation laws and sort of mediation initiatives that are happening in the UAE. So certainly, if you want to learn more about what mediation is and how to incorporate it in your future practice, you may want to listen to the podcast.